In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. May peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah the Almighty be upon all of you. I am Umar bin Abid, and you are watching my linguistics. So, dear viewers, in this lecture, we are going to discuss chapter 4, the sound patterns of language of phonology. And the reference book for our lecture is The Study of Language by George Yule, 7th edition, which is published in January 2020. So this channel is bilingual, so each video is available both in English as well as in Urdu. So this video is in English and you can watch the same video in Urdu as well. I have given the link in the description below. So because this lecture you can see very long, almost 1 hour and more than 1 hour. So you can see I have created some sections in this video. So if you go to the description, so if you want to watch a specific topic, so you can click on the minute, for example 12 minutes and 30 seconds, and I have given that what topic starts from here. So you can click on that section as well if you want to go to a particular section, or you want to just want to look at the study questions. Alright, so I have given these sections in the description below, so it will make easier for you to watch this video. Or if you wish to watch complete video from beginning to the end, so then it is more better to develop a context. But if you already know something, then you can switch on to different sections. So let's start. So at the beginning of every chapter, George will bring some quotation relevant to that chapter, so that it can create a background for us. So there is a speech, or there is a written script, and it seems very odd, it seems very different spelling at once. Just at first look it seems that it is not English, but if we try to read it, so can we read it if we try? So just once upon time, so it seems that it is once upon a time. You was three berries, there was three berries, mama berry, papa berry, a baby berry, live in a country near forest, nice Australia, no mortgage, like this. One day papa mama and baby go buys, so such like that. So what's the purpose? The purpose for we are studying phonology. So you can see, although these spellings are very wrong, these are not the correct spellings of English word, like once we used to uh, study these spellings. But even then we are able to find out some words. So how we are able to find these words in a correct manner? And after a bit I'll show you the complete speech as well. So this is, it seems that it is once upon a time. So although these spellings are very, you can say, odd or very wrong, even then we are able to read this script a little bit and we are able to find some words. So the reason is that whenever we learn a language, especially if it is our first language, so as far as first language is concerned, so whenever we see a new word or we listen a new word in a language which we have already learned, so we can easily understand it. And even if sometimes you might have seen that in the beginning the children used to write very incorrect spellings in the beginning when they learn a language. But we are able to find these mistakes. How we are able to find these mistakes? Because we have speech patterns in our mind. Whenever we read something, even it is not as usual we are used to read it, if it is something else or if it is very unusual like this script, even then we are able to read, because we have some speech patterns in our mind, that how sounds are combined in a language, especially those languages which we already know. So we know how the sounds are combined in a language. So when we read once upon a time, so quickly we develop a context that it must be once upon a time, because these speech patterns and how sounds are combined in English, this is in our mind. Alright, so this is what we study in phonology. Before going towards uh, more detail, just recollect, just have some recollection of previous chapters. In previous chapter we just discussed the production of speech sounds, for example speech mechanism, in terms of how we produce some sound, the place of articulation, the manner of articulation. So in this discussion we were not focused that whether we are looking the vocal track of a particular person who is 5 feet tall or whose weight is 200 or 100 pounds. So we were not very focused on a particular person or a particular vocal tract. We were just focusing on different sounds. However, um, it is really possible, and it happens actually, that due to our different physical structure, our vocal tract is different from one another. And now then different geographical aspects, environmental factors, where we live, whether we live in a cold country or a hot country, or whether we live where both weathers are available. So all these conditions and our physical structure makes our voice different from one another. All right, so we can observe it. And now for example, there could be a single word me, and each of us many will pronounce this sound differently. Or what do we mean by pronunciation differently? Although if I say me, you many people would say me as well, but physically this me, the me by me, and the me which is pronounced by myself and the me which is pronounced by someone else, it will be different physically. What do we mean by physically? Usually we can differentiate it when we measure pitch frequency, or we look in a spectrogram. So we can measure that each if 10 people are pronouncing me sound, so their pitch or their frequency will be different. So in that manner, physically our speech or our sounds can differentiate from one another. So phonology, so for example, when someone is saying me, and it might be possible that someone is very ill, it might be possible someone has catch a cold, it might be possible that someone has woken up from a sleep, from a deep sleep, and maybe that person pronouncing me in an unusual manner, like ni or ma or li or si. So how we can differentiate that the person is pronouncing actually me, not any other sound? For example, if someone has woken up from a very deep sleep and he or she says ni coffee, now the person who is listening to that person, he or she will understand that the person is not saying ni, actually he's saying me. And he or she will understand that it is just due to some sleep. So because we develop a context that if someone is saying, someone is waking up from very deep sleep and saying ni coffee, so actually he means to say me coffee, not ni coffee. So this is how we can, whenever we listen something, even if somebody is pronouncing some sounds differently, or if somebody is pronouncing a sound in a wrong manner, even then we understand that what the person might want to say, what is the person actually saying. So this is phonology. So phonology is essentially the description of systems and patterns of speech sounds in a language. So this is what we study in phonology: description of systems and patterns of speech sounds in a language. So in phonology we study that how in a particular language speech sounds are combined and what are their patterns. For example, in Arabic, this combination is not possible, and actually this sound does not exist in Arabic sound. Similarly, uh, in English, uh, many patterns will not be, for example, like this sub. There is no word in English actually which starts from s and b with this cluster. So actually in different languages, therefore when we talk about phonology, so we mean speech patterns of speech sounds, and therefore phonology of every language is different from one another. It might be possible that some languages are very close to each other, in family trees, and their phonology is a little bit similar to each other. But most of the languages of the world or have different phonology or had different patterns at some times, or at some occasions, or most of the times. So this is what we study in phonology. So now, um, as a native speaker we unconsciously knows how to make sounds and how to combine them to make meaningful words. So as a native speaker, we unconsciously know all these words. For example, a native English speaker will never pronounce a word in this combination, like sabat. He will never pronounce like this if he or she is a native speaker. uh, but it might be possible that in Welsh this combination is possible, so they will pronounce it consistently. Now phonology is actually, therefore we say that phonology is based on a theory what a speaker of language unconsciously knows about a sound pattern of that language. So phonology is based on theory what a native speaker of a language unconsciously knows about the sound patterns. So therefore we say that the description of system and patterns of speech sounds in a language. So to describe a language we need native speaker, and similar is the case with phonology. We have to look at the native speakers, that how they are producing sounds and how they are combining different sounds. Alright, phonology is therefore concerned with the abstract and mental aspects of sounds in a language, because these are the aspects which are in the mind of a speaker, of a native speaker. Alright, and therefore we were able to find out some words in that story, because we have patterns of speech sounds of English in our mind. uh, and one thing more, if we are, you can say, a very beginner learner of English, so we might not be able to differentiate or read that story, but native speakers will surely read that story quite easily. And those speakers of English who are studying English or learning English as a second language, even they will be able to read that story or some words of that story, because gradually we also develop patterns of speech sound for second language as well. So this is the main thing what we study in phonology, that is contrastiveness. In phonology we are concerned with the underlying design of each sound type, which may vary in different physical context. So actually in phonology we are concerned with the underlying design of each sound type. So actually we are concerned with the sound which is meaningful. All right, now this term, sometimes it is aspirated, sometimes it is unaspirated, sometimes it is tantalized. So these are different physical context of th sound, but this th sound in general is the main or basic sound, and these are the different allophones we say, or different physical contexts. In some contexts it will be aspirated, in some contexts it will be unaspirated, in some contexts it will be dentalized, but all of these sounds are still th sound. So in phonology we are usually concerned with the contrastive sound. For example, in tar, in star, in cart, in all of these words, th physically th is pronounced differently, but the meaning does not change. So we consider that all of these have th sound, so we are just concerned with the contrastiveness. Yes, if instead of t there is something else, or instead of here if there is b, then we are concerned with this in phonology. Alright, then now we shall discuss about phoneme. So phoneme is actually each meaning distinguishing sound in a language is a phoneme. So any sound which can differentiate, or which can, or you can say which can create a meaning, it is known as phoneme. For example, tar, bar, car. In all of these words there is only one change of phoneme, th, b and k, and the meaning has changed. So this is phoneme. But if the meaning does not change by changing a phoneme, then it is actually not a phoneme. It will be a phone, or it will be an allophone. So uh, these these are three different phoneme, th, and ra, and combinedly they are making a meaningful unit. All right, and even this is a meaningful and even one unit is a meaningful unit as well, because just by the changing of the one phoneme we have a new word. And similarly we have bar, but if we say bear, b-a-r-e, b-a-r-e, then the vowel is changed, bear. Even then the meaning, a new meaning will be you can say will be occurred. All right, so this is the concept of phoneme. And we can say when we learn alphabets like a, b, c, d, e, f, g, h, i, j, k, so actually this is the concept of phoneme which we are actually studying through alphabets, because we consider that each alphabet has a different sound. From each alphabet different words are produced. So actually when we learn alphabets we are using the concept of phoneme at the single stable sound type. What are natural classes? So the descriptive terms for each sound we used in last chapter are considered the features of each phoneme. For example, in last lecture when we discuss a sound b, one thing more, for phoneme we put in slant, when we use phoneme we put it in slanting bracket, or when we are using a phonemic transcription. But when we are transcribing a physical transcription, what do we mean by, even this is physical transcription, we are producing b sound. But when we are concerned not with something specific but in general, and when we want to look at physical details, that how is actually someone is pronouncing, then we use this square brackets. So for example, if someone is saying str star, all right, and so we'll transcribe it like this. But if we want to know more details and we want to actually pronounce it, that someone is pronouncing this with aspiration or non-aspiration, or we are looking at that someone is pronouncing this sound something differently, then we put this transcription in a square brackets. And usually in square brackets the transcription is square brackets is known as phonetic transcription, and the transcription is slanting brackets is known as phonemic transcription. All right, then what we are going to discuss, yet we were discussing natural classes of sound. So in last lecture we discussed in last lecture, for example, when we discuss a sound th, we said that it is voiceless, its place of articulation is alveolar, and its manner of articulation is stop. So actually these are the descriptive terms for each sound we used in last chapter. Now what are natural classes? If two or more than two sounds have similar features, then we keep them in a natural class. We say that these two or more sounds belong to the same natural class. For example, when we have p sound, it is also voiceless, it is a stop, but its place of articulation is different. But even then two features are similar to th sound, so it will belong to this class. So when two or more sounds share some features, they are sometimes described as member of natural class. And phonemes that have certain features in common tend to behave in some similar ways. So therefore those phonemes which belong to the same natural class, they tend to behave in a similar way. For example, we know that from this table we come to know that this p and k, these two belong to one natural class, and v and n belong to one natural class because they are voiced and they are voiceless. If only a one feature matches in two sounds, they belong to a natural class. So it is a voiced sound, these two are voiced sound and these two are voiceless sounds. So these natural classes help us in understanding something more. For example, we have seen that words start from p and l, p and l in English, but words does not start from v and l sound, or n or l sound, or r or la sound. So we might suspect that, for example, it might be possible that two sounds which are voiced and having very different place of articulation might not come at a as a consonant cluster in English. So these natural classes help us in this way. Then we have phones and allophones. So phones are different versions of a phoneme. Phones are different versions of a phoneme. For example, we have t phoneme and its different physical versions. Phones are different physical versions, we should say that, like that. Phones are different physical versions of a phoneme. So we have a phoneme t. In some contexts it is aspirated, in some contexts it is unaspirated, in some contexts it is dentalized, in some contexts it changes its place of articulation. So all these are phones of the phoneme. And when we have a set of phones, these are a set of phones, and all of these are versions of only one phoneme t. So we add the prefix allo mean one of a closely related set, and call the whole set as allophones of that phoneme. So we can say that these are the allophones of phoneme t. Alright, now let us look at some example of allophone of t sound, because t has a lot of allophones. So usually in the beginning of a sound, t is actually aspirated, and for this we use the small superscript like tar. R is optional at the end. In British English usually it is not pronounced at the end, especially RB, but in American English it is always pronounced. So this is one allophone, but when t comes at the end, like cart, it is usually unreleased. Unreleased mean it is not aspirated. So for example, if you keep the back of your hand in front of your mouth and pronounce tar and then cart, you will notice that in t there is very less voice. Then if t precedes if t precedes dental sound, for example in the example EIGHTH, it's, in that case it becomes dentalized. What do we mean by dentalized? Usually the position of t is alveolar, we know, but its position changes or shifts from alveolar to dental position. Now if you pronounce this sound it's, you will notice that your tongue will automatically comes towards the back of the teeth or between the teeth while pronouncing this sound, while pronouncing th sound, because the next sound is th. So therefore our articulators move towards dentalized. Similarly, one sound which we look in last chapter as well, alveolar flap, which is usually used in between two vowels like rider, and sometimes instead of th, speaker pronounce the glottal stop, like instead of saying butter they say bah, bah, bah. So you know all these different pronunciations, these all are different pronunciation, but when we listen to these words, we understand that the person is saying butter, he's not saying something else like bah. And native speakers, because they listen to these variations constantly, so they are very aware, and these speech patterns are already in their mind. This is a table which shows the different phoneme and allophone of th sound. Let's discuss difference between phone and phoneme. So by changing one phoneme, meaning will change, but by changing phone, the result will only be in different pronunciation. For example, at the beginning of a word, somebody may pronounce like tar, and somebody may pronounce like tar. Now this is unaspirated version and this is aspirated version. So now whether we pronounce aspirated or unaspirated, the meaning will not change as far as English is concerned. But in many languages, this is the in English these are two allophones, but in Urdu, if I talk about Urdu, in Urdu these two are phonemes. Why? Because in Urdu, with aspirated th, different words are produced, and with unaspirated th, different sounds are produced. For example, for cap, for the word cap, in Urdu it is used, the transcription will be like this. Let me remove this. Yes, for cap in Urdu the pronunciation is taupi, 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 taupi. It is quite unaspirated. If you just listen to me, I am pronouncing it unaspiratedly, taupi, taupi. But there are different words which start from aspirated th in Urdu. For example, the word kick in English. For this, the word in Urdu used is thokar, thokar. Kick means thokar in English, and here the th sound is aspirated. So in Urdu, different words are produced with aspirated and unaspirated th. So in Urdu, these two are phonemes, but in English, these two are just phones or allophones. What is complementary distribution? Very simple. Two or more phones which never occur in the same environment. So in the beginning, the speaker can pronounce aspirated th as well as unaspirated th. This is just this is called diacritic. This is just a mark for unaspirated th to show unaspiration. So but as far as uh, this phone is concerned, it's in this word, the T is pronounced from dental position. You can never pronounce th sound. You can never pronounce th sound in the beginning from dental position. If you try, you cannot do it. For example, if you keep your tongue between your teeth and pronounce word this because in the beginning th is always at the alveolar position. So these are different environments. So this is one of the environment. So th will only be dentalized in this environment when the incoming sound is a dental sound. In any other environment, th cannot be dentalized. Alright. So one more example, in the word boot, In the word boot, th is actually rounded at the end. At the end, th is rounding, and we know th is actually not a rounded sound, but due to the previous sound, it becomes rounded. So it will only happen in this, you can say, in this environment, in this phonetic environment. You cannot make th rounded here. You cannot make th rounded here. Yeah, your lips will not be rounded here while when you say eights, but when you say boot boot, your lips will be rounded even while pronouncing th sound. So this is complementary distribution, where one phone can occur only in a certain environment and cannot occur in any other environment. So now move towards minimal pairs and sets. So these minimal pair and sets are actually the test to differentiate between phones and phonemes. For example, if changing by one phoneme a meaning change, then it is a phoneme, otherwise it is a phone. So minimal pairs, what are minimal pairs? If by changing one phoneme, the meaning of the if by changing one just by changing one phoneme, the pronunciation and the meaning of the word change, then it is a minimal pair. Or in other words, when in two words at a certain position only one sound change, so fan, van, bat, beat. And when we have a list of sounds, when we have a list of words and all of these words are differentiate from each other just by one phoneme, then it is known as minimal set. So two or more words that are identical like this, two or more words that are identical in form except for a contrast in one phoneme in the same position in each word. So position must be same. So fat, fit. In this set the vowel is changing. In this sound the last sound is changing. In this set the first sound is changing. Then we have phonotactics. What are phonotactics? Constraints on the permissible combination of sounds in a language. Phonotactics actually deal with that what are the constraints in the phonology of a language. In other words, in which combination sounds cannot occur in a specific language. As I have mentioned that in English there is no word which start from V and L, or no word in English which starts from N and L, because it is against the permissible combination of sounds in English. And but this word like FIG and the word like VIG, in English there is still no word VIG, WIG is the word, but in the permissible combination of sounds in English this word is possible. And actually these are the permissible combinations which are very productive and which help us to make new words whenever we want to define a new phenomena or whenever we want to name a new thing. So therefore we use this permissible combination. You might have heard many words in conversation which are not the part of the dictionary, but speakers make these words. And how they make these words? By the same phonotactics, by just using this productivity of their language. So in each language there are different constraints. As I have mentioned, in Welsh this combination is possible. All right, now move towards syllables. So what is a syllable? So a syllable must contain a vowel or a vowel like sound, including diphthongs, and the consonants are optional. You already know. So in a syllable a vowel is must. For example, a is a syllable, is a complete word, and I, for this, it is a diphthong but it is also a syllable. Now we can use consonants at the beginning or at the end in a word, before or after the vowel sounds, but there is no word in English actually which can be produced without a vowel sound. So the most common type of syllable in English is has a consonant before a vowel. So this is the most common structure. CV. C mean consonant and V mean vowel. For example, if I say T or two, so actually this has this combination. What are the basic elements of syllable in English? Let us discuss. So first of all, onset. For example, if I have this word B O A T, boat. So onset, when the consonants come in the beginning of a word, so this part is called onset, and it is followed by a rhyme which consists of a vowel. So this part is a rhyme. This part is known as rhyme, and it consists of a vowel. All right, and the last part is known as coda. So at this position, any consonants come, they will be called as coda, and at this position any vowel will come, it will known as nucleus, and this part is known as rhyme. And in rhyme, uh, actually rhyme is this whole part. Rhyme contains both the nucleus and coda. All right, so let me show you the structure at first. Yes, so you can see in syllable, we have onset, the consonants have at the beginning like b, and nucleus, in nucleus we have a vowel bo, and in at coda position we have a consonant t sound. So this rhyme is the part which contains nucleus and coda. All right, then we have open and closed syllables. So very easy, those syllables which end at a rhyme, or which end at nucleus, or which end at a vowel sounds like me, see, these are the open syllable. And those syllables which end at a coda position, or which end at a vowel, at a consonant sound like boat, these are called closed syllable. All right, when a syllable has no coda, it is called an open syllable like me, to, no, lo. And when a coda is present in a syllable, it is known as a closed syllable like book, cook, cup, at, up. Basic syllable structure in English. So this is the basic syllable structure we find in English. So CCVB, it means the two consonant at the beginning, then sometimes two consonant at the end like eggs, and two consonant at the end. In ham we have CVC structure, consonant, vowel, consonant. I, we have only vowel. In do we have CV structure. In not we have CVC. So these are different structure based on the words. Now let's talk about consonant clusters. So what do we mean by consonant clusters? When two or more consonants immediately occur together or occur with each other. For example, we have stop, it has two consonants at the beginning. We have post, it has two consonants, it has the cluster of two consonants at the end. We have black, two consonants at the beginning, the cluster. We have bread, we have trick, twin, flat, throw. So all these words contain a CC, a cluster of two consonants in the beginning. So notice there is a specific combination. We can notice that the second element, the second consonant in all these, in many of these consonant cluster are actually liquid sound, which are l and r, as well as a glide sound. So here this is a liquid sound, this is also a liquid sound, this is also a liquid sound. So, and this is also a liquid sound, and in flat this is also a liquid sound. So it means there are a lot of words in English which have consonant cluster, where the first consonant might be stop, or might be a fricative like f, and the second consonant might be a liquid or a glide. All right, then this was the combination of two consonant at the beginning. We have larger consonant cluster as well in English, like stress. We have three consonants in splat. Once again, in then we have many other words as well, like this: splash, spring, strong, scream. All right, splash. So once again, you can notice that when we have three consonants, so first of all we have a s, which is a fricative, and after fricative we might have a stop, and we might have a, once again we might have a liquid. Yes, we have a stop. Second sound is usually stop, like t, p, k, and the third sound is once again a liquid or glide. So in two, when two consonant, we have a cluster of two consonant, the second consonant most of the times is a liquid sound. When we have three consonants of, when we have a cluster of three consonants, so the third sound is a liquid or a glide, the second sound is a stop, and the first sound might be fricative, especially as in this case. We have a word like this, exclaim. So how many consonant cluster does it take? E, X, L, A, I, M. If we transcribe it, we shall transcribe it like this. Here we can see we have four consonant. So does it is it a cluster? So actually, if it is a cluster, so it should be pronounced like exclaim, exclaim. But we know we pronounce it like exclaim. So we usually create here a syllable boundary, and we pronounce it like it as this part as a one part like x, and this part as a second part, so we pronounce it like exclaim. And both consonant and coda may combine, as I have already told you. Now just look at coarticulation effects. So what are the coarticulation effects? Coarticulation effects means that in English or in other languages as well, we have large clusters of sounds, as we have just discussed, and they might be reduced in conversational or in casual conversation. So in this way our speech becomes more fluent. All right, and the definition of this is the process of making one sound virtually at the same time as the next sound. Virtually mean really or very close to reality. So in casual speech we make very sounds, we make sounds short sometimes, and sometimes the property of one sound shift to another sound. So in this, first of all, the first process is assimilation. In assimilation there are two sound segments occur in sequence, and some aspect of one segment is taken or copied by the other. This process is known as assimilation. For example, in this phrase, I have to go, you know, in have the last sound is v. The first sound of th, to is th. It is a voiceless sound and it is a voice sound. So it becomes easy for articulator to move if this sound is also voiceless. So therefore, native speakers, while pronouncing, or those speakers or those second language speakers as well, who are, you can say, good in speaking English, so instead of saying I have to go, they say I have to go, I have to go, I have to go, I have to go. All right, one more example is 10 pins. 10 pins, in 10 pins the last sound in 10 is n, and it is an alveolar sound. The in pins sound is a bilabial sound, so it becomes easy for articulators if the last sound is also a bilabial sound. So therefore speakers in casual speech pronounce it like tampins instead of tanpins. Nasalization. In nasalization, actually what happens that pronouncing of a sound with air flowing through the nose typically before a nasal consonant. So actually a sound which is not usually a nasal sound, it becomes a nasal sound. This is the process of nasalization, and it happens many times with vowels. For example, we have a word like ant, aunt. So when we pronounce this sound is a vowel, is not a nasalized sound, but due to the incoming nasalized sound, it becomes like aunt, aunt, aunt. And for to show this nasalization, we use this mark which is known as tilde. Similarly, when we say b-double-n, bean, it becomes like bean. So the nasalized property also shift to e sound, and it is so consistent in English that it can be called a rule that any vowel becomes nasal whenever it immediately precedes a nasal. Any vowel becomes nasal whenever it immediately precedes a nasal. So it is immediately preceding a nasal, it is immediately preceding a nasal, so therefore they have become nasalized. Similarly, when we say a phrase like eaten, a word like eaten, in eaten, this shaw sound, or sometimes some people say this t sound, also become nasalized. And vowels are also subject to assimilation. So nasalization can be called one of just similar to assimilation, because in nasalization the same process occurs, the property of a sound changes. So one more example is I can go. So what happens here? Very interesting. The last sound is can is n sound, and the next sound g, is a velar sound. So due to the influence of g sound, this n sound, which is alveolar, it also becomes a velar nasal. I can go, and we pronounce it like this, I can go. Alright, similarly we have another process known as elision. So what is elision? In elision, actually one sound is left out, or one sound is missed from the word, one sound is not pronounced. So when we say this phrase you and me, so many times speaker do not pronounce this d sound, and they just say you and me. And even due to this combination, we know in and we have this vowel a, and it also becomes, this vowel also become a shaw, you and me. You and me. In friendship, this d is the, you can say, pass from the elision, and it is just friendship, not friendship. Aspects. In aspects, th is not pronounced, it is just pronounced like aspects. He must be, it is pronounced like he must be, not he must be. And then we asked him, and usually it is pronounced like we asked him. we asked them. Even this is, her is also not pronounced, we asked them. Or this is the pronunciation of American English, asked. In British English it would be asked, so we asked him. Sometimes the vowels are also disappear through elision. For example, we have a word like everi, so the pronunciation is actually every, but this sound is disappeared and it is pronounced like every. In the word like interest, it is pronounced like interest. In when we have one more word, it is pronounced like cabinet, but it is the e sound is disappeared through elision and it is just pronounced like cabinet. Similarly, we have the word suppose, suppose, it is just pronounced like this, suppose, not suppose. This show after sound is actually disappeared. So these are all the processes in one table which we have just studied. Assimilation, when voice sounds become voiceless, like verb become fur. In nasalization, a nasal quality is added to a sound segment before a nasal sound, like pan. And in elision, we leave out a sound, and due to this sometimes a consonant cluster is reduced. For example, in he must be, we have th and b, which is a consonant cluster, but it is reduced, he must be. And sometimes two syllables are reduced to one syllable. For example, if it is like prisoner, in prisoner, if we pronounce it like this, we have two shaw sound and we have two syllables, but one shaw is disappeared through elision and it is pronounced like prisoner. So these co-articulation effects actually make our speech a normal speech. Otherwise, pronouncing each sound very carefully and pronouncing each sound fully is usually a robotic speech, which we usually hear through artificial intelligence through different devices. We cannot say that this assimilation, elision, or nasalization makes a speech a sloppy speech or an informal speech. No, it is actually known as the economy of speech. Due to this, we can make our speech very in short time, and we can make our speech very effective, and it occurs in almost all languages. Alright, so this is the complete version of that story which we looked at just in the beginning of the lecture. Now we are going to solve and explain the study questions of this chapter. First of all, is phonology mainly concerned with sound tokens, sound types, or sound spelling relationships? So phonology is actually concerned with sound types. So what do we mean by sound types? For example, th is a sound type, kh is a sound type, but th has different versions. Sometimes it is aspirated, sometimes it is unaspirated, sometimes it is dentalized. So all these different versions of th are actually sound tokens, and the th sound is actually a main type. So in phonology, we are concerned with contrastive sounds, so we are concerned with sound types. Second question, which of these phonemes are member of a natural class? B, f, g, and m. We know b is voiced sound, f is voiceless, g is voiced, and m is also voiced. So because there are three voice sounds and f is a voiceless sounds, and f has not the manner of articulation among any of these, and f has not the place of articulation of any of these. So therefore, because these three sounds are voice sounds and they share this feature, so therefore these three sounds belong to member of a natural class. In French, the words beau mean handsome, and bon mean good seem to have different vowels. Are these two vowels allophones or phonemes in French? So actually these two vowels are phonemes in French. Why? Because when it is a simple version, when the vowel is not nasalized, it means something else like handsome. But when this vowel is nasalized like bon, it means good. So because by changing this sound, or by adding a a detail, or by adding a diacritic, or by adding some more information, this has become a new word. So in French these two will be called, so we shall say that nasalized vowel is a phoneme in a French but not in English. So which English phoneme has the features voiced, velar and stop? So actually it is g sound. G is a voice sound, and it is its place of articulation is velar and its manner of articulation is stop. So actually this is the way to write the sound, not this one. What is an aspirated sound, and which of the following words would normally be pronounced with one? All right. So what is an aspirated sound? So aspirated sound is one in which uh, the puff of air comes in a large amount from our mouth while pronouncing that. So which of these words might be pronounced with an aspiration? So this will be pronounced because when a stop comes at the beginning, especially p, t, k, voiceless stops, so they are aspirated. Similarly this will be pronounced as well. In skill, the native speaker will not aspirate it. Similarly the case with spool, stop and top. So these three sounds, the beginning of these three sounds, stop, pull and kill, is aspirated. Does this phrase big black bag contain a minimal pair, a minimal set, or neither? So if it is a minimal pair, so one phoneme must be changed at the same position, but it is not the case. We can see big black bag, it has a consonant cluster, so it might be a minimal pair, yes, because big and bag, in big and in bag there is only the change of a vowel at the same position, e and a, so these are the minimal pair. This is the minimal pair. Which of the following words would be treated as minimal pairs? So now we have to find which of the following words are minimal pair, like ban and similarly like bun, because in ban we have a, in bun we have a. So actually I have made this list and this is the answer. Question 8. What is meant by the phonotactics of a language? We have already studied the permitted arrangement of sounds that obey constraints on the sequence and ordering of names in that language, that in what sequence sounds can occur in a language. In the pronunciation of track, which sounds would be the nucleus? So the nucleus would be this sound, vowel. Vowel is actually the nucleus. What is the difference between an open and a closed syllable? We have already discussed an open syllables and at a vowel sound or have no coda, and a closed syllable and at a coda or has consonant at the end. Is the nasal consonant in the everyday pronunciation of I can go alveolar or velar? We have already discussed this alveolar sound n in this phrase in casual conversation changes to this sound, so it is actually an alveolar, I can go. Which segments in the pronunciation of the following words are most likely to be affected by elision? So in government, r will be n will be disappeared through elision. In postman, th will be disappeared. In pumpkin, the second th will disappear. In sandwich, the sound d will disappear, and in victory this shaw sound will disappear, so victory. So this is all about this complete chapter. I hope you have understood it. So, and these are the references. If you have not understood anything, so you can ask in the comments, or you can give feedback about this complete video, that how much you have understood it. Don't forget to give your feedback. Remember in your prayers. Jazakallah khairan and thank you.